Relax, the keyboard is off, the press box is closed, and the mic is just getting warmed up as the Guardian of the Blue Paint turned writer is about to enlighten us. The show where the writer is fresh off their presses and the ink's not dry. For this week's show, the Flyers have done much, but still have a lot more to do. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink. Join Lance Green and SteelFlyers as we bring you all the latest on the Flyers.
Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of the Hockey Writers Ink. As always, I'm your host, Lance Green.
And as always, riding shotgun is your co-host, SteelFlyers, and this, the Hockey Writers Ink, is a Philadelphia Flyers hockey podcast. And the writer extraordinaire has blessed us with another awesome article for us to talk about in this week's show. And I got to tell you, folks, man, I'm telling you, things are getting rather interesting down there in Flyer land. What do you think, Lance?
Well, yeah, I mean, you had the draft now, and guys are settling into development camp, and a lot of familiar faces are there helping out guys. John LeClair's there. Sammy Kapanen's been on the ice with certain players. Big Sam Moran is helping out certain players as well.
Sure. You betcha.
Similar players to themselves. So I like the Flyers' newfound input into development, and
finally,
hopefully they keep this up, because they've hired, as you know, Patrick Sharp and John LeClair to kind of help out. And one of the rumors I want to talk about real quick is rumored that Danny Heatley is going to be joining the Flyers.
I knew that
in
was
some former, and he is a favorite player of mine when I was a kid, but as a scout, potentially. I don't know where, but potentially in Canada, or maybe in Germany where he was born. I don't know where he's been living, but who knows?
He spent some time in Hershey for a number of years playing for the Hershey Bears, because at that time that was the farm team for Colorado. The Hershey Bears was, right? And they've jumped around. The Hershey Bears have been, the farm team for other clubs. Now they're the farm team for the Washington Capitals. But I do remember that name, and quite frankly, okay. Hey man, if that works, okay. But we're gonna get into a bunch of other stuff though, for sure. You know what I'm saying? So, first thing I would like to say, though, is big thank you to Spreaker for all your help in getting us out there to all those podcasting platforms. We really appreciate all the hard work that you do to help get our name out there. All you do is go to your favorite podcasting platform like iHeartRadio or Google or Apple, or pick one, type in Hockey Writers Ink, and you'll see us. Give us a 5-star rating. That helps to get us higher up in the rankings, so that you can find us that much quicker, and then you get to listen to all the great episodes here from the Hockey Writers Ink. So big thank you to Spreaker for all their great hard work for that. So Lance was able to tune an article out for us this past week, and I gotta tell you, folks, I mean, this guy just keeps knocking him out of the freaking park, man. It's like this guy knows what he's talking about or something. I mean, really? Yeah, I think he does. That's why he's the editor-in-chief of SteelFlyers All Sports Network. So, Lance, I say we get into it. What do you think?
Sure.
All right. Here we go, buddy. Episode number 130, okay? And the Flyers have done much, but still have a lot more to do. And I think that's going to be that piggybacks right off of your article that you just posted the other day on the SteelFlyers website. Go to steelflyers.com and check out the latest article there from Lance Green, the editor-in-chief. And I think this dovetails perfectly with this article, and a couple of things I want to get into here, because as you have mentioned in your article, there have been a lot of things that have been done. Okay, and you even mentioned it right at the start, where the Flyers have, okay, now the draft is in the rearview mirror. Okay, and guys are starting to settle in now, where the invitations have gone out and development camp has started and has been going on, and things of that nature. And just as you release this article, right, within hours of releasing this article, Elliot Deonay gets helped off the ice at the development camp.
Mm-hmm.
Look, folks, this is one of the reasons why I love the way Lance writes, because he addresses the problem head on, and then he gives you multiple different ways on how to tackle said problem. So, Lance, let's get into it, all right?
Sure.
Okay. We need some left wingers.
I would say so. And that's the basis of this, article, in a sense. The title of the article was Flyers have addressed many issues this offseason, but one they haven't touched is the left wing position. And, they went out and signed a lot of big name free agents, that are going to be veteran presences, guys who have a lot of experience, not essentially, guys that are going to be first line players, but guys to help out the youth that's going to be on this team.
That's see, and that's the other reason why I love this article, Lance, because you point out exactly the type of players that are being brought into this team right now. Mm-hmm. They're character players. They're team building players. They're locker room type players. They're culture type players. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? They're good role models for some of the up and comers.
Yeah, they've been there. They've done this before. You have defenseman Mark Stahl. He's like 36. He's been around the league. Very, very serviceable defenseman still.
Quite a coup, if you ask me.
Even at his age, he's excited to come in and help this young defensive core. You have right winger Garrett Hathaway, very physical guy, very Flyer player for sure. I think they may have paid him a little bit too much, but it is what it is.
I'm with you, but I'll tell you what though, man. Him playing with Boston last year, I'll tell you what. This is a good pickup as far as I'm concerned. Well, okay, but he's a right wing.
Yeah, he's a right wing, right? Yeah, he did well in Washington as well before that. But the other being a center in Ryan Poling. So good guy there as well. But the basis of this was, on top of that, additions, they didn't add any left wings. Now, the Flyers, in a sense, don't have any natural left wings. They have two left now, right? They have Joel Farabee, who is a natural left winger, and they have Nicholas Deslauriers, natural left winger. All right.
Okay.
They did have Elliot Dejonay.
Yeah.
But he just went down, like Steel said, in development camp and had to be escorted off the ice. So that leaves us with only two natural left wings. But on the other side of the fence there, on the other side of the face-off circle, you have a plethora of guys. You have your Travis Konechny's, your Owen Tippett's, your Hathaways, your Wade Allison's, your Cam Atkinson's, all being natural right wingers that are on the Flyers roster already. Then you have Mishkov, who they just drafted in the first round. You have Tyson Forrester, who's a right winger. You have Samu Tumala, who's a 2021 second round pick there. You have Bobby Brink. You have Devin Kaplan, Alexis Gendron, who's another big right wing prospect for the Flyers, who scored 55 goals this past season in the Q up Canadian juniors. So a lot of guys on that right side that are promising wingers, but not a whole lot to combat that on the left side. Now, the Flyers do have a couple left wingers that are unsigned, right? They have Cutter Gauthier, but a lot's going on with him. A lot we don't know about really is going on with him. I think Danny Briere tried to clear that up a little bit, but it's still concerning in my sense.
I didn't get the warm fuzzies after the explanation.
Right, right. I mean, he seemed before end of last season, he seemed pretty stoked about meeting Torts and his interaction with him last year. But has since turned down a contract from the Flyers, a contract offer from the Flyers, to go back to college, which I agree. There's going to be a ton of great players coming in to BC next year, and he may want to win a national championship, which is all well and good if he wanted to go back for another season. But he should have been here at development camp, and he turned that down as well. And
Yeah, see,
and
don't like that.
I think it would have been good of him to come out, even if he didn't want to play, even if he felt a little banged up from playing the season and playing Worlds. He could have came out there himself and said that in a press conference or something like that, or even over Skype or whatever, to sit there and say, hey guys, I just want to let you know I played a lot of hockey this year. I'm going to skip development camp and go back to BC and get ready for that season. Just, trying to get a little healthy for next season and rest up. Whatever would have been a lot better than just saying, nope, not coming. I don't know. So they also have Alex Bump, who looks good in camp this year, but he is unsigned, so he's definitely probably not getting a contract this year to join the Flyers.
He was a last year pick.
Right, he was last year, yep. And then Alex Cernick, who the Flyers drafted in the 4th round this year. So a couple of guys, in the system, but not signed, not going to be essentially on the Phantoms or the Flyers this upcoming season. All right, so
right.
What did the Flyers do here to counteract that, right? They invited in Matt Brown, who is a 23-year-old NCAA undrafted free agent left wing prospect. All right, 23. So he's getting a little up there in age. He's even for the NCAA. He's diminutive. He's 5'9", but he could score last year. 39 games played for the Boston Terriers. He scored 16 goals, 31 assists for 47 points, scoring at a 1.20 point per game average, and also maintain a plus 15 average. So very good college collegiate, year there. So he's worth a look at least, right? I just don't see him to this point already, being days in. I don't see his name plastered all over everything and blowing people out of the water, that the Flyers spent the time to scout for months or years and selected them, in one of the drafts of the previous years. I don't see him garnering himself a contract out of this development camp. So what essentially can the Flyers do to fill the vacancy of a spot like James Van Riemsdyk? Okay, James Van Riemsdyk, a lot of people are happy to see go, as am I at this point in his career.
I'm with you. Seeing him go is all fine and great. Seeing his money come off the books, but the fact that we got nothing for him.
Well, that's not on Danny Briere. That's on Chuck Fletcher.
Okay. Regardless of that fact,
right?
The fact that he walked scot-free just goes to show you the failings of this team. And
well, that's past administration. So hopefully we'll be on the right path here, and we'll see. Danny Briere's pretty confident and has proved already that he can make a deal or two. And tomorrow, essentially, he is supposedly gonna pull out the trade with Carolina to get rid of D'Angelo. That was held off there for a bit.
Well, that was because the reason why it was held off is because the NHL stepped in, and they said that they were going to conduct their own investigation and they were going to deny the trade.
Well, that's why it had to be delayed, yeah.
Because they felt that there was, it was going to go against the collective bargaining agreement and a whole bunch of other things. And so I
Yeah, it
guess
was
they
less
had
than a
to.
year. It was less than a year than they actually did the trade. So that's contractual. That's all in the
Right.
CBAs and stuff like that,
Exactly.
that they
Exactly.
can't
Exactly.
physically
Exactly.
pull off a trade to trade that player back to the team that they got them from in less than a year's time. So that's why they had to wait for this to come to tomorrow. So hopefully, Danny Briere is going to garner himself a little bit extra cap space. With this upcoming trade tomorrow.
Okay. Well, so now, okay. So this is kind of the other thing that I wanted to get into that you kind of mentioned about in the article that the free agency has also started and come and gone
Mm-hmm.
for the Flyers. And although Mark Stahl was added to the roster, which I'm all for,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Garnet Hathaway, Ryan Poling, Rhett Gardner. I mean, these are all just those fill in guys that we said that they're character guys and all that. These are well, we're not necessarily getting the top of the ladder here. And at this point, most of all the great free agents have gone, so it doesn't really matter how much money Danny gets now, right? The wave has already passed. I mean, the only thing you can do now is free up some cap space and try to move some players around. And if anything comes available that you're able to pounce on. But other than that, I mean, what's out there really, aside from some RFAs or UFAs? That's kind of where you're going to have to be at now. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, I got you. I got you a perfect fit, right? And a trade scenario that could work. But
See, do you like
let's
how I just serve them up for you, man?
right, right. But let's first talk on why we need to do this, right? Why we need to pull off a potential trade for a player to be
We don't
able to
have any
fill that
wingers.
that gap, right? Because we have a lot of right wingers, and most people would sit there and say like, hey, why not just move some of the right wingers over to the left side? Now, if you haven't,
Yeah.
that's easy to say if you haven't played the game, guys. Um, Now, if you do play the game and you've been forced to play your off wing, you'll understand what I'm getting ready to talk about here, because that stuff works in maybe, junior hockey or the AHL, where somebody could be that much more talented than the people that are lining up across from them. But that doesn't
And they're just trying to
necessarily
get him out
work.
there on the ice.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily work in the NHL, where everybody's the fastest, the strongest, and the best players the world has to offer. Okay, you don't want to put somebody at a disadvantage, especially some of these young kids that are just trying to gain themselves, a potential spot on the Flyers roster. You're setting them up for failure in my mind. Now, because of this, you have to look defensively. When they're trying to break out of the zone on the off wing, they're either going to be passed to their backhand, and then have to turn around and really, get handcuffed up along the boards to kind of get it out of their feet and get going, rather than being there, facing the shooter and all that. But if they wanted to do that and face the defenseman who's going to be passing them the puck potentially, then they have to turn all the way around with their
Yeah,
back
see.
facing the defense to be able to
Uh-uh.
do that.
Yeah,
All
see,
right?
no.
That's not good. That's not good, guys, because the minute you start to turn around, here comes this defenseman to annihilate you off the puck. And, and still, you played football. I would accredit that to maybe a slot receiver that had a horrible ball thrown to them, and they're all stretched out real far to go get it,
Oh.
and then they come back down, and all of
And
a
they get
sudden,
all laid out.
yeah, there's a Ray Lewis or a Brian Urlacher right there to knock them unconscious. All
so
right.
so back in the day, right, that was a Ronnie Lott. Ronnie
Right.
Lott would give you a woo hit, right? And we said, well, what's a woo hit? Well, when the crowd goes woo.
Ooh.
Yeah, right. So that's a woo hit.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
so when you take this now into the offensive zone and you're trying to be that off wing, playing your off wing, and you're going into the offensive zone, what does that set you up to do? It sets you up to always be on your backhand, to receive a puck on your backhand. And I'm sorry, there's not a lot of people that are Sidney Crosby's or Pavel Datsyuk's or Jaromir Jagrs that have an amazing backhand and can score goals, 20 goals a year on their backhand. There's not that type player
No,
in the NHL now. There's very
and
few and
certainly
far
not on the
between.
Flyers.
Right. And so what do they have to do again? They have to turn all the way around and kind of skate in sideways and set themselves up to take that shot or receive the puck from that sense. And it slows them down, right? It slows them down and it draws attention to them in that sense from the defense, seeing that they're getting ready to set up for a potential shot. And then they just mosey on over there to take them totally out of the play potentially. So it's not a good look. It's not a good look at all. They don't really get good shots off. They're kind of handcuffing themselves on the defensive end. They're kind of handcuffing themselves to throw in a backhand, offensively. I really don't like it. I like, right wings to play right wings, left wings to play left wings. And the Flyers have done this way too long. They've taken centers in Claude Giroux. They've taken centers in Scott Lawton because they don't have any left wings and made them play left wing when they're taking them away from what they do best. And those guys both, Claude Giroux has since moved on, of course, and all that, but he was an amazing face-off artist. And you moved him out of the face-off dot, and you're taking away that advantage that he had over the other team, right? He got a little older.
Why would you do that?
You maybe wanted to move him out there. I see that, but he's way too valuable in the face-off dot. He still took some, but not as many as he should. And Scott Lawton is getting the same treatment right now, right? He's a versatile player, which he can play left wing pretty darn well, but you're losing him in that face-off dot. You're generally, taking him out of position to guard the Sidney Crosbys but now you got Noah Cates there. So you forced him into the center spot. I hate the moving around. Draft a guy for his position, that in a position of need. Stop trying to make them something they're not. All right.
I'm so with you on that, Lance. Gosh, I'm so with you on that. And that's what I think has severely made this so lopsided for the Flyers. Why there's so many right wingers and so very few left wingers. And my only question would be, because of all of the youth, and this is what I thought was going to happen when Cam York came up, that, hey, he should be playing on his natural side, but instead they had him playing the offside, which is not right. So now you got all these young guys coming up here. Well, so you would think, well, hey, maybe you make the Couturiers and the Atkinson and those guys, make them play the left wing. And if you want to bring in some young guys, let them play their natural position instead of having them play out of position. Because what's the hardest thing in the world to do is to make that transition from one league to the next. Okay? And not only are you doing that on a whole brand new team, a whole brand new system, all brand new people, you're in a brand new city, the whole 9 yards. Hey, at least you could be doing is playing your natural position. Because at least you have an idea of where you should go, where you should be, what your responsibilities are. You're the one that's supposed to be pinching if the defense goes in. Well, there's all these things that you naturally do when you play the left wing. So, all right, all that aside,
right?
Because that obviously ain't gonna happen,
right?
Or it's gonna have to happen at some extent if they don't do something. So in your article, though, you point out something that the Flyers could do, maybe.
Yeah, I think they should, in a sense. They don't have the money for any big name free agents. They're all gone anyway, right? Everybody's inked to new deals, most people anyway. And Briere's already brought in some veterans to place around. But what he could do to kind of balance this offense and bring in a left hand or left wing is to call up his old buddy Chris Drury up in New York for the Rangers, their general manager.
Yeah, I think he's more a Keith Jones buddy, but that's okay.
Well, I mean,
Who cares?
Briere and Chris Drury played on a line and a team together, the
All
Buffalo
right.
Sabres. Right.
So
So,
call up your line mate and be like,
yeah,
hey, buddy.
right. So, hey, how about we get this guy, an Alex Lafreniere, okay, a former #1 overall pick of the Rangers. That kind of he's done pretty well, but um, he has been stuck really behind a couple of different players, right? He has Chris Kreider, an all-star player in front of him, and he also has Panarin in front of him as well. Okay, two amazing talents, but he's just buried on the Rangers, you know, draft or depth chart right now. And he's only 21. He's played in 3 or 4 different years with the Rangers now, and he's had some pretty decent numbers. In 21-22 season, he had 19 goals. He had 16 this year. He had 12 in his rookie campaign. All right, he had 39 points this past season and was a +10.
And he's a left winger.
And he's a left winger, okay?
And is he an RFA or a UFA?
He's an RFA, okay? And here's the reason why they might be willing to give him up. The Rangers went out and spent a lot of money already, okay?
Yeah,
they had
I know.
a lot of holes to fill, but they went out and signed Blake Wheeler. They went and signed Tyler Pitlick. They went and signed Riley Nash. They went and signed Connor McKay. They went and signed goaltender Jonathan Quick. They got old. They got a lot of veteran help, a lot of good veteran help, but they filled a lot of vacancies with experience. They're in a win now kind of thing. They need to get over that hump. They have a great defense with Fox and with Keandre Miller as well, who is another restricted free agent that they have to sign. Okay, but they only are limited to very little cap space in which to sign Miller and Lafreniere. And I think because of the depth on their team on left wing with Kreider and Panarin, they're going to be willing to try to sign Miller first. All right.
Okay.
Because he plays really well, and he was a solid piece of that defense.
And he played really well in the playoffs for them too.
Right. And their in sense leaves Lafreniere kind of without a place to play. They don't have the money in which to sign both, I don't think. They're going to try to do it. But recently the Rangers have been allowing teams to call and at least shopping him a bit. They've recently come out and said they want to keep him, but they definitely shopped him. So why not try to call his buddy up, his old teammate up, and get this young kid? Potentially, he would, in my eyes, he could turn into an Owen Tippett. A same type situation. He was buried on the depth chart in Florida. And, he came to the Flyers. He got top 6 minutes, and he blossomed, right? He bloomed. He's taken off. He had an amazing season this season, even when he was playing with nobody. He did it basically all himself.
No, with you. Agree with you 100%, man.
And that's where I see Lafreniere if indeed the Flyers are able to fire him.
All right. Well, so let's throw this out there, man. Let's build this milkshake, shall we?
Sure.
Right? Okay. So I feel you on that Lafreniere thing. All right. Look, the scouting report on him was relatively off slightly. The kid's got some talent. You know what I mean? But I agree. I think he needs to be the man. He needs to be the alpha dog, and he just ain't. Right? If you look at all his when he played in juniors, right? He was the man among boys out there when he was out there playing. That's why he got the #1 pick. That's why he was a #1 pick, because that's how he played. And he just didn't get to play like that when he was with New York. Okay? And it didn't matter what line they had him on. He just wasn't able to play like that, like the way he did, back in then. All right, so being an RFA, meaning that New York can match, and being that he is a former number one overall pick all day long.
Right.
What on the Flyers would Danny have to reach into the cabinet and go, all right, I need to take that. I need to take that. I need to take that. Right. So what's on the docket then?
Well,
What do the Flyers have to do in order to entice New York?
this is all just, my
Yeah,
ideas of it,
speculation.
but
Yeah.
speculation. But I don't think it would take as much as some people or some of our viewers may think it would take, because everybody knows the Rangers are in a tough spot financially
Yeah.
with signing. They have a lot of amazing players that they have already paid out. They're a bit cap restrained, like the Flyers were, but like now we're getting some cap freedom here because
Yeah.
we've made some deals. So potentially they might ask for a first round pick, but there's no way in heck the Flyers should give away their first round pick. Remember, next season they have two, right? They have the Florida Panthers first round pick that was acquired in the trade for Giroux, and then they have their own. So if you look at what the Panthers did last year, they made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. All right, they played the Golden Knights. So essentially, it's almost a second round pick at this point. If they have a similar team and success that they did from this year, at least they're probably going to make the playoffs again.
Okay, because all right, so
you're potentially getting a
21-year-old
first overall pick for a first round pick in the late rounds.
So you're saying trade the conditional pick that we got from Florida, because more than likely they're gonna be in the playoffs.
Sure.
Right. So the condition is if they make the playoffs, they get a number one pick or a first round pick. Or what if they don't make the playoffs?
They already have. No, the Flyers already have the pick. It would be, them trading that pick. Essentially, we don't think that.
So wherever the Florida Panthers are going to pick in 24, that's the pick that the Flyers would get.
That would be the pick that
that's the
Rangers
one that they would trade away.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is that, but potentially they could go, with another realm there. They could go with maybe one of their other picks and then package up some of these right wings, right? They could package up Tumala, who now is definitely surpassed by Michkov in a sense, or a Bobby Brink who hasn't really got it all together here with the Phantoms. I thought he would do a lot better, but
well, that injury kind of set him back a lot, though.
Right. But as far as the depth chart goes on right wingers, he's fallen down now as we get more and more guys in the system. He's
But I'm with you. That would be nice to add him onto the chopping block as far as that's concerned. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still enticing because he's only a couple of years removed from being, the leading scorer in NCAA, a couple of seasons ago. So
still has upside. Still has a lot of upside.
Potential to trade in there to entice them to any package of right winger prospects or whoever they might want to pluck off that aren't on the Flyers top list there could potentially go in a sense.
You'd be willing. See now look, a couple years ago, a certain team in Pittsburgh did this exact very thing. They traded their I think it was 17th overall pick in the first round to the Miami Dolphins for Minka Fitzpatrick. Now, Minka Fitzpatrick in his draft year was the 11th overall pick in the first round. Right? So Minka Fitzpatrick, a established #1 draft pick player who has done nothing but blossom since he's been drafted, right? So he's a known commodity. First round draft picks usually have a better chance of being players in the league, but I don't have a problem trading a lower end #1 pick for a known commodity that was once a #1 overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And essentially, I mean, a goal away from being a 20-goal scorer in just his 3rd year in the league, and he's only 21. That guy is going to be here and really hitting his stride when Forrester, Gauthier, Mishkov come in. That is right there in that realm, right? We want to build that group.
I like that, man. I really like that idea. I like the idea of Lafreniere. He was a name that, man, I'll tell you what, dude, I was reading the article and I was like really enjoying it. And then you brought up the Lafreniere thing and I was like, what? You want to do what? And then I'm sitting here thinking about it. And then I went, well, wait a minute. Okay, he's an RFA. So the worst thing that could happen is the Rangers would match the offer, which if we go high enough, they might not be able to. And how high would we need to go? So that's the other question. How high would the Flyers have to go in order to get that money?
Well,
in order for New York not to be able to match.
Well, the thing is that I don't know if they even want to match because they have their lineup kind of set as it is, and they want to bring him back. But in a sense, you would give away more if you do a sign and trade. If you say, hey, can we talk to him? And if we can sign him, then we'll give you more. We'll give you a 1st-round pick and then some prospects, or we'll just take him as he is, a restricted free agent, and then trade for his rights in that sense. And then, if anybody else wants to try to claim him, we'll match that. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, I see what you're saying now. So we just basically trade for his rights so that if any other team comes calling, we have the opportunity to match instead of the Rangers. So what would we have to give the Rangers in order to get that?
Well, that's what we kind of discussed, I think.
Okay, so we would have to do that kind of a trade, make that kind of a deal with the Rangers in order to get the rights for Lafreniere. I still would be okay with that.
Then you discuss with him.
Under one condition, that Lafreniere signs with the Flyers no matter what.
Well, he's, in a sense, that's what you do. You either do one or two things. You sign him, like I just said. You as New York lets you talk to him, you discuss a deal. He signs with them. Then the Flyers give them more because they now know he's already signed, and then the trade's going to happen. Or you trade just for his rights and then give them less, and then deal with it once he's already here.
All right, so I'm more of that ilk where you give them whatever we can, the low end of the pole to get his rights. Mm-hmm. And then that way, then we talk to him instead of anybody else. So I'm down with that. The other question would be is, what kind of money would you be giving Lafreniere? I mean, he's not quite a 20-goal scorer, right? Yeah, he is 21. Yeah, he was a #1 overall pick. But, I mean, this has to be his bridge deal, though, right? I mean, you're thinking.
Right. Well, it depends.
3-4 a year?
You would really have to talk to him and see. He's been rumored to not want to sign a bridge deal with the Rangers. But again, you have to think why, right? Because why does he want to sign for a couple more years to sit under Kreider and Panarin? Okay. He might be willing to sign a bridge deal with the Flyers, seeing that he's going to be a top six role, and then be able to be a 25-goal scorer. He may only sign a 1 or 2 year bridge deal, and then he can bet on himself and say, hey, I know I'm going to get more time in Philly, and maybe I can be a 25 to 30 goal scorer. I'm already almost a 20-goal scorer playing on a third line. I'm playing top 6 minutes now. I'll take a year or two of maybe $3 million, $3.5 million to bet on myself 2 years from down the line and get 7. You know what I mean? So you would really have to talk to him and entice him in that sense if you acquired him in that sense where you would trade for his rights and then negotiate with him like that. Be like, hey, we're all about paying you, but would you be willing to sign a 1 or 2 deal here? We'll allow you to play top 6 minutes because we don't have anybody else to play a left wing on the top 6.
Well, we'll give you the shot to play the
yeah.
top 6 minutes, right? Yeah, okay. You know, you don't guarantee anybody anything.
Where you don't have that in, New York, you're not going to have the opportunity to prove yourself. So you're going to be yet again trying to prove yourself on a third line role with third line minutes. And, I can see his frustration there. That's what I'm saying. Like, so it may be a very different situation if you were able to garner his rights in a trade and then discuss with him.
I'll tell you what, Lance. Man, I love how I love how you always reach for the fences, though, right? Because he would be that would be a perfect opportunity for the Philadelphia Flyers to get somebody who could actually come in here and help the team. That's still young enough that could come into his prime when the rest of the team is coming into their prime. I mean, that's another thing that you can entice him with. Like, hey, look at all these draft picks and all these young guys you got coming up. And, I mean, look, I don't care what anybody says. This team is going to be improved next year. No matter what anybody says. Because if Couturier plays, if Atkinson plays, and some of these other guys that we see are going to play, this team is going to be better. Okay? I can't say anything about what's going to happen with the goaltending, right? I still don't have any answers with that. That still hasn't been addressed yet. As far as I think they lost Tony, their goaltender from the Phantoms. I think he's gone, right? I think he signed somewhere else, right? So I mean, they're going to have a Phantoms goalie, and then they need a number 1 goalie and a number 2 goalie to play for the Flyers, and I don't think they've addressed that issue at all, right? I mean, you want to get Cal Peterson in here, and okay, but you want to bury him at the Phantoms, okay, great. You still only have one. I mean, you drafted 2 goalies, which I don't know about you, but man, they don't give me the warm fuzzies. Do they give you the warm fuzzies?
Truthfully, I don't know too much about them, like we already said, because the one was, Russian and all that. I really don't know with everything being so closed off there. I like Carson. He looks good, but I think he's not as put together as some people would like. I think his game still has a few holes that I would like to see kind of tweaked, and hopefully they're doing that. I still don't have confidence in their goaltending coach here. I think he would be one of the next ones I would like to see moved out and bring somebody else in. But I think Carter Hart's going to be there, and he's going to be fighting with Cal Peterson. I think they're both 1B goalies. All right. I don't think they're, if that makes sense.
So
I don't
you're gonna put Ersson down in the Phantoms then, and you're gonna have Peterson up playing with Carter Hart.
Yeah, I think so. But
I mean that makes sense.
But I don't know. I don't know what they can physically do cap wise. So they may need to bury Peterson and save a little bit of his salary by putting him in the minors. That may have been just a trade, but you got to think they give him a shot out of the gate because Cal Peterson essentially was given that deal for a reason in LA. He had a good season or two where they were like, all right, this guy is our next guy up after Quick, we're done with Quick. And then he kind of
really well with the national team too. So
yeah, and then he played really well with the national team. So the USA, but there's interesting stuff there. You got Ersson still. He played well at times on a crap team with the Flyers this year.
Young.
And then you have, Ivan Fedotov still. What is going to happen with him? the KHL, he's signed a deal in the KHL, but being that he wasn't able to come over and play this past season, the Flyers reserved the right to basically move that deal to this year. Now the KHL has kind of halted the ability to push that deal through because of the lingering of him being signed to an NHL club. They're holding off on that until they figure out what the heck's going on with this. Is he signed for the NHL? Is he going to come over, be allowed to come over here and play, or is he going to stay over there now? So they got to work that out. And I think, you know, if you follow his Instagram and stuff, he's
I saw
on
some of his posts.
vacation and all kinds of stuff.
I mean, it's nice
he's
to
kind of
see
living the life right
good.
now. But you know, as it stands, I think the team is better going into this season as far as the goaltending depth as you know, as they were this time last year. You know, I want to see what Carson does this season, going back to the Wheat Kings potentially. So you know, he wasn't my choice of guys, but you know, he was rated pretty darn high, and you know, one of the top North American goaltenders. So
Well,
we'll have to see. I don't like his numbers. They were over three goals a game in the WHL, but then again, you know, he was playing Riley Heights, you know, everybody that was sitting in, you know, all the players that were drafted in the first round, pretty much.
Which, by the way, the WHL man, boy, they
Connor Bernard and everybody
they got a lot of players.
You know, they had a lot of people.
14.
At least one superstar on every freaking, you know, WHL team there.
I believe 14 of all the 14 players went from the WHL this year. 14.
And most of them in the first and second rounds. Yeah.
I'd have to agree with you on that one for sure. All right. Well, so okay. So we got some ideas about how to fix the left wing. We got some ideas about, you know, development camp and everything else like that. And so, Lance, I want to ask you this one last little question here, okay? So I think the team's going to be improved to an extent, but there's still a lot more to do. There's still a lot more to do with this team. There's still a lot more work that needs to happen. There's still contracts that need to be taken care of and removed and whatever you want to call it. There's still a lot more work, I think, that needs to be done with this team. Do I think this team's going to be better? To some extent, I think there's going to be better in some ways. Yeah, but we're going to have to see how all this all shakes down before we start saying how we think this team's going to look. Do you know what I mean? I don't think we have the final roster yet. I'll be interested to see what develops over the summer. If anything else comes about as far as any other trades or any other moves that Danny Briere might have up his sleeve, I would be all down with that. So,
I mean, I think a lot has. I think Danny Briere has come in and changed the culture, essentially with the focus on the development camps and stuff like that, and the focus on the prospects, because he does know they are rebuilding. He has come out and said that they're in a full-on rebuild. He has gotten rid of, you know, Ivan Provorov. He has gotten rid of Kevin Hayes. He's hopefully going to get rid of D'Angelo. So that is 3 players off this roster that have $5, $6, $7 million contracts off the Flyers already. Okay, he made the right decision in not bringing back JVR, in a sense.
Who, by the way, signed a 1-year, $1 million deal with Boston.
Right, and I mean that's a heck of a lot less money, but you know, I think he still is a good player, but he is getting into his 30s, and you know, he wants the chance, like anybody else, to win the Stanley Cup. So, you know, did they get a bargain at $1 million? Heck yes, they did, because you know, don't forget that 2 years ago, JVR was the leading scorer for the Flyers. So,
and what, 4 years ago, he had 30-goal season.
Right. So, I mean, a lot can change in a short amount of time for sure, but he does offer a lot of depth, and you know, kind of is that guy who stands up in front of the net, which, going back to Lafreniere, would take that role on as well. He likes to get in front of the net. He likes to bang. He likes to screen the goalie. He likes to put in some cheap goals and rebounds. So, you know, that's what this team essentially was really built on, and you know, from the power forwards of John LeClaire and Wayne Simmons and Scott Hartnell and Mike Knuble, who now we have his son who plays a similar game as him, you know, so all
And we
those
got
guys.
the inside line on him too, right? Because
Right.
when we talked to a prospect who got to get out and play the Carolina Junior Hurricanes, and said a lot about the fact that there was some that he was there. You know what I mean? So I'll tell you what, Lance. Well, what do you think right now? I mean, are you happy with the way things are going? I mean, I was not real happy with the draft. I'll be honest with you. Okay, I just really wasn't. I felt that the Flyers had an opportunity to get some really good talented players that could be part of the team and be some of the guys that you could hang the banners from the side of the building from, and they just didn't do it.
Yeah, they
I mean,
missed on a lot of picks that you know, I definitely would have made.
if
They
Mitchkov, if you see him in 3 years, if will he be that same player? Will this be, that's my biggest question right there, man.
Well, I mean,
I'm
that's
not
the
doubting
thing.
his skill or talent, but
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know, he is a home run shot, and that's essentially what they need. They need a big name player. He he is that big name player if they can get him over here. But I
yeah.
don't want to see him in 3 years. The team is pretty confident that they can get him over here. Essentially, maybe next year. They're that confident, and so is Mishkov's, you know, attorney and agent and stuff like that. So I'm wishful thinking here and hoping they can get him off. And over here, I would hate to see Connor Bednard, you know, already have 150 goals by the time Mishkov is able to come over here and start helping the team. But we'll have to see. But yeah, like you said, you know, Washington really cleaned up on a lot of stuff we left on the table with, you know, Ryan Leonard uh, being there, and then you know, uh, going and getting, you know, Cristal in the second round was amazing. You know, we didn't have a second round pick, but we should have been.
No, we
And if
traded. We did
we
have a second round pick. We
we
got
did, we got one,
Chicago's.
yes, but we didn't have that pick at that point that we should have had. You know, and
Okay, but if we would have picked him first overall,
first round, yeah.
if number 7 would have been Cristal, right? Number 22 could have been Moran or Leonard or, oh my gosh, dude, there's a list as long as my arm of people that were available at that spot that they could have picked.
Well, yeah, and I mean the 22 pick, I like Bonk,
Yeah,
but I'd rather have Moran,
all
or
day.
I'd rather had Gabe Perreault at that spot too, who the Rangers
Hello,
selected
because
at
you could have gotten
23.
that second. You could have used that second round pick to get Moran or to get a good defenseman because there were some available. Hey, like I said, the only thing that saves this draft for Danny Briere is if Mitchkov hits. And I'm here to tell you, that's putting a lot of eggs in a real small, slim, long time down the road basket.
Yeah, I mean it'll be a great draft for him if he is able to bring him over in a year or
Yep.
two time. So
Yep.
we'll have to see there, but We'll have to
Holding
see.
my breath on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that they're pretty confident. So, they had some closed door meetings, and hopefully they are willing to throw a big chunk of money, because I think Mishkov even came over with people from Sochi, his team in the KHL representative. So I don't know. If Comcast is willing to throw a big chunk of money on him, maybe they let him go after another season.
Whatever.
But yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, even in the 5th round, Carter Sutherland we picked. The Capitals went out and got Cameron Allen, who
I know.
Was a great defenseman there.
He was on
he
our
had
list.
a rough year, but
list.
he had a rough year. But Cameron Allen was an OHL rookie of the year kind of thing the year prior, but he had a down year because his team really stunk and they had no goaltending. I think they played like 5 different goaltenders. His team did.
I think, yeah.
So that was a big kind of spot where we could have went and got a potential first line player, a first first round player, that dropped, so there's a lot of, armchair quarterbacking, here, but who knows, we'll have to see how these prospects
I'll tell you
develop.
what, like I said, I will be more than happy to eat whatever crow I need to eat by saying, nope, you should have gotten Gabe Perreault. Nope, you should have gotten Ryan Leonard. Nope, you should have gotten Chris Stahl. Nope, you should have gotten Moran. These are all players that you guys had the opportunity to get, and you just completely whiffed on. And the only thing, as far as I'm concerned, is if Mitchkov hits, then you still get a marginal grade because he's only one player, right? And you selected 10 players, right? You traded up to get a second round. You got 2 first rounds. You know what I mean? You had 2 fourth rounds, 2 third rounds. I don't get it, right? I help me understand, please.
Yeah, I don't know. Matteo Mann, and even in the 7th round, a 6'6" defenseman that kind of skates like a NBA center getting on skates for the first time. I don't know. I think he's going to take a lot of work to get there. I think you could have got a lot more polished player in Zach Wisdom, who we interviewed, or Aiden Fink, who was there, that got drafted by Nashville, and Wisdom by Seattle. Respectfully, both of those players were still on the board. I think they would be another Gendron type player who is a surprise this time next year.
Plus, we already
on
have
how well they're doing.
Plus, we already have Azadeh Wisdom, Zach's older brother,
right,
on the team already. Okay. All right.
Yeah. But again, both those players are right wing, so who knows any more of them? So it's what it is.
We just keep adding them to the team. We'll just make him play left. Well, we're not going to make Lance play left. We're going to make him play his natural position, which is the guardian of the blue paint, turned writer extraordinaire. And so, with that being said, have you got anything in the paddock?
I do, but hopefully trying to land a couple of people to interview here, some prospects for our other show, Prospect Watch. So I got some phone numbers. I've been digging.
Lance is the
man. Trying to garner us some new interviews, right?
There you go. All right. Well, Lance, I'll tell you what, man. Why don't you tell the folks where we can find you, where we can get you, my man?
Sure. You can check out this article that we talked about tonight. If you head on over to SteelFlyers.com, it definitely goes into more detail, explaining why I suggested this. And you can find me on Twitter at Lance Green 39, and I usually put out all kinds of thoughts and different stuff out there. You can hit me up, and I'll definitely conversate with you on that and talk shop for sure.
For sure. You can follow the Hockey Writers Ink on the YouTube channel of SteelFlyers. There's a playlist there of the Hockey Writers Ink. You can also go to any one of your favorite podcasting platforms and type in Hockey Writers Ink from Spotify to Google to iHeart to Apple, and you'll be able to find the Hockey Writers Ink as well too. You can go to YouTube and any one of your podcasting platforms to check us out. You can also go to SteelFlyers.com and check us out too, for sure. And then and there you can read the article that Lance put out as well too, and you can see all the other great stuff that the SteelFlyers All Sports Network puts out as well too. So thank you, Lance, for another great one, man. I think this was another good show. I think we got a lot of great information. I think the team is at least the boat is headed in the right direction. Right? I mean, I feel that at least the boat is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, we've thrown off a lot of dead weight for sure. So,
right. Yeah,
we're
good way to put that.
We're getting younger, we're getting faster, hopefully, and
turning the boat into the wind here a little bit.
Yeah. So speeding up the process back to contention, hopefully.
There you go. All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52. And you can also find the Hockey Writers Ink at HCKY Writers Ink. Okay. That's at HCKY Writers Ink on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find Lance and me all over Facebook, and go to the SteelFlyers page on Facebook and all our stuff. All of our stuff is there. Go check it out. Thank you all very much for watching. This is SteelFlyers and the Hockey Writers Ink, and we'll catch you all on the next episode.